The month of October has come to a close, so I'm going to rank all 4 October new releases that I saw from the worst to the best in my opinion. Hi, my name is Nathan and I talk about a bunch of movies and TV shows on this channel. If you're new here, down below in the comment section, share your ranking of the October new releases that you saw over on my channel. I have more content like this. Check those out once this video is over. Click that like button and be sure to subscribe. It really does help a lot. And with that said, let's just get right into the ranking. Easily in last place, Exorcist Believer. Now, I went into this movie just from the trailers, just expecting something generic, but decent at best. And I don't think this is a worthy sequel to The Exorcist on virtually every single level. Now, there are some skepticisms I had going into this movie. I didn't think David Gordon Green was the right person to translate The Exorcist because he did the last trilogy of Halloween movies, and Halloween's very different from The Exorcist. But I think that this movie, it wasn't because of him, it was because of all this other stuff that's contained into this movie. So it starts off quite generic. What I was expecting, like, okay, cool, whatever, seen this, been there, done that, and it just gets worse and worse as it goes along. As it gets where absolutely just goes off the rails is in the climax at the ending with the exorcism, and you get all these different religious factors doing the exorcism. You can't just have a normal exorcism with one religion. They thought, what's better than that? A whole bunch of different religions, and it just doesn't work. And it's so unsatisfying once you actually get to the end. Like, the characters aren't even likable, and it kind of is offensive to the religion where they decide to, like, kill off the priest that's one of the priests that's doing the exorcism, and then, like, just as it's about to work, it takes this, like, dark turn and kills somebody off, and at the end of it, it's like, hey, we're just living our happy lives again, and wow, like, that is just so unsatisfying. I think of all the movies that have come out since the history of this YouTube channel, this is probably the worst movie that's come out in 2021, 2022, and 2023 thus far, and I just didn't enjoy this movie at all, and so easily it's in last place for me. Then we have Five Nights at Freddy's. To be clear, there's a pretty big jump from Exorcist Believer to Five Nights at Freddy's because I enjoyed Five Nights at Freddy's, but I found it to be a movie that's more entertaining than credible. Now, certainly my experience with the movie definitely helped out on my actual enjoyment of the film. I went in a theater with a packed audience full of kids, teenagers, and it was just an absolute blast. They were watching the movie like they were watching Spider-Man No Way Home and Avengers Endgame, where they were like clapping all throughout it. Twists and reveals will happen, and they'll let out a big gasp, and I think that played into my enjoyment. Likewise, the following week at my high school, a big discussion amongst people was the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, and that's what people wanted to talk about, and it got people talking, and I joined in on the conversations, and so I guess that also played into my enjoyment for this movie. Inherently, it is based off of the video games, the phone apps. Inherently, it's just a dumb sort of premise about animatronic robots going haywire, crazy, killing people. I have never played a single game of Five Nights at Freddy's in my life, but I found it to be a fun enough little film that does an okay job with that. And I think where the movie struggles for me is that it has characters that have backstories and layers and have character arcs, but I didn't particularly care about the characters. And Josh Hutcherson does good in the lead of this movie, but I don't really connect with him and care with the fact that his backstory about his brother getting kidnapped and a bunch of other stuff like that. And there's going to be Easter eggs and reveals that are made purely for the fans, but not for people like me who've never played a single game of Five Nights at Freddy's and know the depth and backstory and lore of all of it. And so in general, I think Five Nights at Freddy's fans will enjoy this movie more than normal people that have never played Five Nights at Freddy's. And so I thought this was a fun enough, good enough movie, but it's more entertaining than it works on a plot level. And likewise, I also found it to like slow down in the middle when they were like building forts and stuff with the animatronics. Just found that to be really weird. And so I think it's more entertaining than it actually works on a story level. Our runner-up is Killers of the Flower Moon, the latest Martin Scorsese film that I think is a very well-made, emotional, historical, epic film. Now, to be clear, if you're understanding my perspective with this movie, I have never seen a single Martin Scorsese movie until this movie. This is the only Martin Scorsese movie I've seen. I did see it in a theater, and it's the only one I've seen in the theater, and it's the only one I've seen in general. And so I can't comment on other Martin Scorsese films and how it compares to them. I can't say if this is top tier Scorsese or not. But I can say that this is, I think, a very well-made, really good movie where essentially most of it is 3.5 hours of characters making horrible decisions, being so vicious and cruel towards other people, and they're just making the worst decisions. It exposes to the audience the worst of what humanity can be, but they do so in a way that's very compelling throughout the entire movie. And of course, it's compelling because of the main characters' performances, where Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro could be very cruel at times, but they also have that humanity side to it that just makes them more compelling, and you want to see this story play out, even though you know it's most likely not going to end well for them. It's also just a really interesting way to look at the aspect and what the film explores about the Osage people and how the oil's from their land, and white people come in and start to take over just a little bit. And I will say this, it's a bit too long. It is 3.5 hours. It's not really rewatchable, and so that's why I don't have it in first place on this list. But I still do think this is a very well-made film. But for me, in first place, totally killer. And this movie is very much my type of thing. Now, with my number one and number two, it's a bit tough here, because I know Killers of the Flower Moon is probably the better made film. It's just a film that's not really rewatchable, not particularly fully for me. Totally Killer is a direct-to-streaming movie. I don't know the budget. I would assume it's maybe a smaller budget than Killers of the Flower Moon, and it is very much my type of thing. And so it's a bit tricky when it comes to these two, but at the end of the day, if I'm being honest, which one am I gonna more likely to go back to? Which one to me stood out more? Totally Killer. And it's kind of like if you took Scream and Back to the Future and meshed those two together to make a time travel slasher movie. That's the best way I could describe it, and it very much is that, where it's reminiscent of both of those movies in several ways. Where in Back to the Future, it's Marty McFly in 1985 going back to 1955, sees his parents and tries to fix things without messing up the timeline. This is that, but instead, present-day high schooler traveling back to like 1987. And it also combines that with Scream, in which case it has this like meta-commentary vibe, and like the characters, all of them are charming. It's just a fun set of characters to be around, where they're all given something interesting to do. And on top of that, it's just a great little whodunit murder mystery. That's what it is, where you don't really know who the killer is, and the characters in the movie are trying to figure out who the killer of this movie that's in this movie is. And so, for me, I just thought it was very well done. It could be fun. It could be funny. It's everything I wanted it to be. It's a Wildly entertaining, murder mystery, time travel movie, and it does that really well. So for me, if I'm being completely honest, Totally Killer is my favorite movie of October. There you have it, that's my ranking. Down below in the comment section, share your ranking over on my channel. I have more content like this, check those out right now. Thank you guys so much for sticking around till the end, and I will see you in the next one.